If not, maybe I'll just take this opportunity to kickstart the meeting. Thank you all for wonderful introductions. My name is Nicholas Novatus, and welcome to today's dialogue on preserving wetlands. For those of you who that might be the first time you're hearing about it, maybe I can say a few things about today's sessions, also with regards to wetlands, which are often called the kidney of the earth, and they help us in terms of filter our water, store carbon, and also provide livelihoods. And they're home to an incredible diversity of life everywhere, really. But yet it remains one of the most threatened ecosystems worldwide, with also climate change and unstable land use, urban expansions putting immense pressure on them and their destruction. So today's dialogue is an opportunity for everyone to come together across borders, disciplines, and also generations to reflect on why wetlands matter, what challenges we face, but also we will have an opportunity to look at some policies and legal frameworks that help us lead the way in protecting these vital ecosystems. So we'll hear from quite an inspiring people, and we'll have first-hand opportunity to also gather insights and share our experiences. And yeah, hopefully you will have a wonderful time. So maybe to introduce ourselves and the people on this call, my name's Nicholas Novatus Mukasa, and I'm from the ICYE International Office. I will maybe share my screen so that I can show you what I'd prepared. And then you have a good overview of what we're doing here. Part of the project.
Yes.
Super. So as I said, my name's Nicholas Novatus Mukasa, and I'm part of the ICYE International Office. I manage the LiveX project. And ICYE, just briefly, it's a federation. It's an international and independent nonprofit organization with more than 50 national committees and partner organizations in Africa, Asia Pacific, the Americas, Europe, and we have our head office in Berlin. So we focus on building regional structures, which for us are important in strengthening our national committees, which are our partner countries in all these countries. So that's briefly about us, but LiveX, which is also a project we're implementing in coordination also with the CCIVS, which is the Coordinating Committee for International Voluntary Service Organization. LiveX is funded by the Erasmus Project, and as I said, the coordinating partners are us and the CCIVS, also 8 other partners who are on this call today. And together we come together through a virtual dialogues and community actions to cater for intercultural understanding and digital inclusion. So the project focuses on equally promoting access to high quality virtual exchanges, which promote global cooperation for social and climate justice, doing all while bridging the gap that there is in terms of colonial perspective. So we are more focused on the colonial perspectives. In a nutshell, this project is part of the Earth Advocacy Mentorship Project. It's part of the Living Earth campaign, which is called LIVE of the CCIVS. And the long term of LiveX is Earth Advocacy, Living Earth Exchange, which is an Earth Advocacy Mentorship Project. And the Earth Advocacy Mentorship Program is usually, the Living Earth campaign, the LIVE campaign of the CCIVS was usually a 6-month mentorship program online international program that was co-funded also by the LIFE program of the European Union that supported the Earth activists to identify a local cause, plan an action, implement the action, and then later on report and share while connecting with each other to engage more people. So LiveX comes in as an advocacy program, virtual exchange, mostly in the sub-Saharan African countries. And how it works is that we have a few rounds of virtual exchanges, and in each round we have one meeting. Well, the partners would then have recruited participants and youth, and then we sit in a one sitting, and then we share now the plan for that very cohort. And that means then we are ready for the next step, which is the mentorship program that we also offer. And it's supported by the course materials, and we use curriculums and handbooks, which, help the young people and also the youth workers who are mentors, providing mentorship to navigate through the restoration and earth advocacy actions, etc., etc. But then the young people usually have an opportunity to form action teams and come up with their own projects that they design, and they can be online or local, but these projects usually address and raise awareness about climate change and some mitigations or climate colonialism. And the scope is wide like that. It's in and around earth advocacy. And then throughout, at one point, they would then submit their projects and proposals, which then some of them get selected and awarded a mini support grant to implement the projects. We had 7 winning projects last cohort, and they all had access to 200 euros to support their local actions. And they're usually documented, and then we do a lot of online advocacy actions, including today's session. But most important, the toolkits that we have inspires mentors and also youth to network and deepen connections. And also, most importantly, they help them highlight the needs to take actions, but also to address radical biodiversity losses, pollution, climate injustices, but it ultimately promote deep and just transition to regenerate and protect our beautiful living planet. And these resources are available on our resource page, so feel free to access them. We'll share more details to that. But in the meantime, if there are any questions, you can leave them in the chat, but also you can write to me. But I will then take this opportunity to welcome the first presenter today, or rather hand it over to Ian for the next presentation so that we dig in deep into our discussion topic today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. I'm sorry, my network is a bit bad. Do you hear me?
Hello, Rutherford. No, I think the microphone is a little bit far.
Okay, I just want to thank you so much for a very good, brilliant presentation. I'm sorry I joined the meeting a bit late. My network was not very stable today. But thank you very much for the presentation. I hope you can hear me now.
Loud and clear. Thank you, Rutherford.
Okay. So I think probably Ian is also experiencing some challenges wherever he is. Let me take the opportunity to welcome Tenda Ngakuzwe Chifamba, who is going to present on the how best can we preserve our wetlands. Tino is going to give us more of the background. We have 2 presenters today. Tino is going to do more of the global perspective of the presentation. Then after Tino's presentation, we are also going to have Rodrick Moyo, who is going to give on more freely life examples and case studies on Southern Africa. So, Tinotenda, join me to welcome Tinotenda to the stage so that he can give us your presentation. Welcome, Tino.
Tino, are you here?
Tino?
It seems he's answering, but the microphone seems to be a bit far.
Okay. Can you get hold of him, Agatha? If you can, let me try and get hold of him from this angle as well.
Noted with, thank you.
Okay.
Tinotenda seems to be here. Maybe it's just the network, but I can see he's part of the participants that we have today.
He's muted. Can someone unmute him?
Okay, yeah, it's done now. Hello, guys.
Is that okay?
Hi, Tino, how are you?
I'm good. I think technology was playing a trick on me. Otherwise, how are you guys?
Oh, we
We
are
are
okay.
all
You
doing
can
well.
take the floor.
Thank you very much. I guess I'll have to say good morning and afternoon as we are more in different regions. My name is Ngakuzgwe Tinotenda Chifamba, and I serve as the focal person for Zimbabwe Men and Biosphere Youth Network under UNESCO's Zimbabwe National Commission. Oh, so our network is dedicated to empowering young people to take an active role in conservation, sustainable development, and community-based stewardship of our natural resources. We do believe that youths are not just leaders of tomorrow, but also leaders of today, bridging science, policy, and community action. So today, I'm really honored to share with you insights on the theme preserving wetlands, science, policy, and equity. So this is more of the background of what holds the issues of wetlands. So wetlands are the Earth's beating heart, and their protection is essential for biodiversity, climate resilience, and human well-being. Over the next 20 minutes or less, I'll walk you through global policy frameworks and the science between wetlands and urgent need for inclusive action, and especially involving youth, women, and indigenous communities. So Agatha, I don't know, are you able to beam my presentation?
Nicholas.
Oh, it's Nicholas who might be sharing the screen, and you'll be presenting as you'll be moving on with the slides. Okay.
Yes. So I think if we can showcase slide number 1.
Can you see my screen? Is this your presentation?
No, that's not the one.
It's your screen.
Okay.
It's your presentation. The one if you.
Just 1 second then.
It's okay. Yeah, I think we are. So from the presentation, I think we can see that's the name, my name, some of the organizations I'm affiliated to. Yeah, so I think we can go next to the next slide. Yeah, so from the from this, we are going to move on to the issues of global frameworks, global policy frameworks. So this is the backbone of global wetland protection, is the Ramsar Convention of 1971, which now covers over around 2,544 sites and more than 250 million hectares of land. That's for wetlands. So at CBD COP15 in 2024, wetlands gained an unprecedented recognition with around 83% of new biodiversity plans, including wetland targets. So this shows that wetlands are finally being treated as central to the biodiversity, climate, and community nexus. Police is now catching up with science. So generally, as an organization or as Zimbabwean youth working on wetlands, we have now taken a role of policy doesn't stand on its own, but policy is influenced by science. And then we can move to the next slide. So wetlands, as they cover just around 6% of Earth's land, here they host around 40% of all plant and animal species. Despite their importance, since 1970, we have lost around 411 million hectares. That's around 22% of wetlands globally. If we look at Zimbabwe, we're losing around 1.8% of wetlands every year. So this is not just ecological loss, it's an economic one. If degradation continues, the world could face up to around USD 39 trillion US dollars in economic losses by 2050. Wetlands, they do regulate floods, purify water, and store carbon. Losing them means accelerating both biodiversity collapse and climate crisis. We can move to slide number 4. So now we want to focus on Ramsar framework and COP15 highlights. So COP15 is the one that happened from 23 July up to 31 July in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe currently has the chairmanship of Ramsar, monitoring wetlands all over the world. We're working with different nations who are all signed to the Ramsar Convention. So at Ramsar COP15 in Victoria Falls, that was in this year 2025, over 25 resolutions were adopted, including the landmark Victoria Falls Declaration and the strategic plan for 2025 to 2034. One highlight, which was one of the greatest, was India's successful resolution on promoting sustainable lifestyles for the wise use of wetlands. In fact, India restored 68,827 small wetlands in just 1 year using GIS mapping and community engagement. That's proof that technology and people working together can deliver real change. From our organization as Zimbabwe Men and Biosphere Youth Network, what we mainly believe in is let people lead, let the youth lead, then the top organization that has the funding, they guide the whole scenario. Whenever there is participatory science or participatory mapping, participatory research, there is always a success. So India did show how you can reclaim wetlands when the communities are on the front. So everything, when it's a community-based, mainly is a success. We can move to slide number 5. So CBD COP15, that's the global biodiversity framework. At CBD COP15, that was in Montreal, governments adopted the Canning Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. There are ambitions or targets that were set. So on these targets, we do look at what is called the 30 by 30. That is to protect 30%. We have 30 by 30, which is to protect 30% of land and water by 2030. Another ambition was restoring ecosystem services, including air, water, and climate regulation. The next one was expanding green and blue spaces in cities. The next one was ensuring equitable benefit and sharing of genetic resources and traditional knowledge. Wetlands are directly tied to each of these targets, especially protection, restoration, and equity. We can move to slide number 6. The Ramsar Convention operationalizes CBD's broader targets at the ecosystem level. Ramsar resolutions reinforce GBL's 30 by 30 target, thus restoring 30% by 2030 target by embracing by embedding wetlands into protected areas and other effective conservation measures. This integration means wetlands are not on the sidelines. They are at the heart of global biodiversity strategies. We can move to slide number 7. So this is one of the most topical issues: equity, youth, women, and indigenous communities. Equity is central to both conventions. The CBD emphasizes fair benefit sharing and recognition of traditional knowledge across generations and genders. Ramsar does recognize the role of indigenous people in local communities in governance. As youths, women, and local communities, we are not just beneficiaries, we are co-creators of conservation solutions. In Zimbabwe, our main ambassador youth network is already working with communities to amplify their voices in environmental governance. So one of the things which is important whenever there is research or implementation, or when we need the best out of our wetlands, is the issue of data monitoring and scientific backbone. We can move to slide number 8. So both conventions do stress that conservation must be science-driven. COP15 established a global monitoring framework with indicators and targets. Ramsar called for updated spatial data, GIS boundaries, and integration into global databases. Without data, there's no accountability. This is where we, as geospatial scientists from different angles and youth networks, have a vital role to play, building systems that combine remote sensing, GIS, and community monitoring. So what were the suggested national actions from all these conventions? And we can move to slide number 9. So what should countries like Zimbabwe and others do? So number 1 is embed wetland targets in national biodiversity strategies. Number 2, ensuring youth, women, and indigenous representation in governance. Number 3, invest in GIS, remote sensing, and community-based monitoring. Number 4, promote sustainable lifestyles aligned with Ramsar's wise use principles. And number 5, that's definitely tracking progress transparently with CBD and Ramsar indicators. This is how we translate global frameworks into tangible local action. So we can move to slide number 10, which now goes to these case studies. But for now, I did pick Zambia and India. Why did I pick Zambia and India? At Ramsar COP15, they were the countries with the best case studies we can showcase. Yes, Zimbabwe did have good case studies, but if we are looking at the level which these countries have contributed, we can say that no, the best we can do is pick Zambia and India. So Zambia's Bangweulu wetlands do showcase indigenous co-management that has improved biodiversity while strengthening livelihoods. Meanwhile, India has become a world leader in wetlands restoration, restoring 68,827 wetlands in a single year by combining GIS technology with community action. These examples prove that wetlands can thrive when communities are empowered. If you don't empower a community, don't think that a wetland will thrive. Don't think that biodiversity will thrive in those communities. No. But by harnessing technology and policies which are implemented, you can get the best in terms of wetlands preservation. We can move to slide number 8. So now I move to the call to action. So wetlands are the beating heart. They filter our water, feed our communities, and shelter life. Yet this heart is weakening. Every wetland lost is a safeguard against climate collapse erased. But we are the generation with the knowledge and technology and the courage to change this. Preserving wetlands is not just environmental duty, it is an act of love for the future, a promise to the children yet unborn. So let us rise to the challenge. Let us be remembered as the ones who restored the heart of the earth, who stood for water, for life, for all. I do thank you guys for this time to present this on global frameworks, policies, science, and case studies on wetlands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ngakuzwe.
I do hand over back to you, Nicholas and Agatha. Mr. Rutherford, I give it back to you.
Oh, thank you so much,
thank you.
Tino. You can
ahead,
go ahead,
Agatha.
say okay. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. So I think we'll give the segment for questions and answers, but not now, because we have got another presenter who is supposed to be coming in and who is focusing more on case studies and giving us the more detailed plan of what Tino Tenda has just said. So we welcome you, Rodrigo, on board. You can come and do your presentation.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Marisha?
Agatha.
Okay.
Thank you, Agatha. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to discuss with the rest of the team. I'm seeing that it's a very good attendance, showing the desire and the need to be active citizens with regards to wetlands management and wetland governance. So maybe just to clarify a few things that I picked from Tino, so that maybe there are some individuals who haven't yet been participating in issues of biodiversity management or wetland management. So when we refer to CPD, CPD is simple, means that the Convention on Biological Diversity. So you will notice that these are multilateral frameworks or international frameworks that the global community comes together to ensure that each country participates, because you will notice that issues to do with wetlands or issues to do with climate, these are transboundary issues. And considering that in 2015, we have the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the global developmental agenda, which each country as an individual is expected to contribute or participate towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So you will notice that these international frameworks, they cause a coming together of different countries. So when a country is participating in a framework, we call that country a party member. For example, Tino speaks of the COP15. COP15 are the different parties from different countries that are coming together to discuss an issue that relates to that multilateral framework. For example, today we are looking at the convention on, so we are looking at the Ramsar Convention that relates to wetlands. So it's also good that as Africa as well, because you notice that most of the times participation in these multilateral meetings or these international meetings, we are always lagging behind in terms of the number of attendance, yet we are the people who are directly affected by changes in biodiversity and changes in ecology, considering that most of our livelihoods, they are directly dependent on nature or on wetlands. So I thought I needed to clarify that. So you will notice that also the language, there's a language then that is used in terms of each framework. For example, at the moment, we are mainly using a market-based instruments to manage wetlands and biodiversity, which some people have referred to as the economization of nature or putting a price on nature. That maybe when we put a price, it can lead to better management, or we can create policies that can ensure that people respect them. So I've been doing this work for over a decade, mainly working with community groups, civil society organizations. And in Zimbabwe, I've been working under the community-based natural resource management, which is a community program that we have here in Zimbabwe for communities to participate in the management and sustainable use of natural resources. So thank you so much. I thought I hope it helped someone so that when we are now moving, we can move together because there are terms, there is language in these issues. So mainly I will continue from what my brother Tino has just did a very good work. I will also look at the decline of wetland ecosystems and restoration responses, looking at Zimbabwe and also in Southern Africa. So when we are saying wetland, any area where there is water, so for an area to be classified as a wetland, there has to be water. So any area where there is water, that area, water that accumulates and it becomes stagnant, it becomes a wetland. Then obviously because of the presence of water, it then attracts some specific species and some animals and wildlife, which then creates the wetlands biodiversity. So this water can come either from underground, that is just suspended from the surface, or it can come from just as an overland flow. This is why you will notice that in countries, as I present, where we have issues with sewage management, it then affects the integrity of wetlands. Can you move to the next slide, please? Are you able to move to the next slide? So while this, the person who's sharing my slide, it's yes. Go to that one, the first slide.
Sorry, I think there is a slight delay here. So the one that
Okay.
speaks of the outline,
Yes.
right?
So this is the discussion that we are going to have. We are looking at the threats, which Tino has touched on some of the threats. Then we look at the decline of wetlands and actions that have been done in Southern Africa, and what are the possible implications, and what has been civil society and governments in these countries been actively doing to manage wetlands and maybe reduce the rate of loss. Next slide, please. So on my when on the threats of I've classified, you will notice that we have wetlands in urban areas, and we have also have wetlands in rural areas, what we refer to as communal areas. I think communal areas are cut across Southern Africa. You go to Zambia, Mozambique, Botswana, those communal areas where there is less urbanization, we refer to them as communal areas, or maybe across in Europe, we consider them as countryside areas. So you will notice why I usually, when we speak of wetlands, we want to go to rural areas or the countryside, but you'll notice that wetlands in urban areas play a pivotal role, especially as it relates to availability of water for consumption. We have got challenges of water across Southern Africa, and in Zimbabwe as well. We have water challenges. So these are the threats that have been coming over the years. The main has been housing and commercial development. I will be using Harare as a case study. So we have got sites that are designated as Ramsar sites, or sites that are managed under the Ramsar Convention, where these sites have been designated or proposed for housing projects. We also have got Cleveland Dam, which is also a catchment wetland. We also are seeing encroachment in terms of cooperatives being given that area for to develop housing projects. So you will notice that projections, the outlook, it says that by 2050, Africa, over 50% of Africa will be urbanized. So there is need for settlement. So in pursuit of settlement, sometimes local authorities end up giving people land in wetland areas. So a case study in Zimbabwe here, we have what we call Harare Wetland Trust. Harare Wetland Trust, this is a grouping or a platform that has got different individuals, lawyers, members of civil society, and community-based organizations. They've taken the city of Harare to court, sometimes arguing that the city of Harare, when it is giving land in areas that are wetlands, have been violating the Environmental Management Act. The Environmental Management Act is the principal act in Zimbabwe as it relates to the governance of the environment or environmental management. So the environmental management provides for guidelines on how developments should be happening. So for any development to happen, especially if it's housing development, the developer should produce an environmental impact assessment certificate. So this certificate is issued by the Environmental Management Agency, which is the agency responsible for the implementation of the Environmental Management Act. So you'll notice that some of these housing development in wetlands have been happening without following the proper due procedure at law. And it's not only a case in Zimbabwe, you'll notice in some countries as well. In South Africa, there are some cases that have been taken to court as well, where a developer starts developing without following the due procedure. Then also with the other threat has been the threat of industrial and commercial projects on wetlands. For example, we have the Longchen Plaza in Belvedere. This is in Harare, which was built on a wetland, and it caused public outcry because people that was also a source of water for some communities in that area. So that establishment of shops, of service stations, and also sometimes areas for religious activities without following the proper due procedure, the environmental impact assessment. So you'll notice that the reason why they are always taking them to court is because that when you develop without an environmental impact assessment, you do not produce ways of how are you going to be mitigating stop the mitigation that can stop the degradation of the wetland. So the other challenge because of urbanization has been sewage and wastewater pollution. So overflowing sewage in Harare has contaminated wetlands that feed to the lake Chibero. This is the other reason why we have a water issue or a water challenge in Harare or in most of our urban areas. It is because, for example, Lake Chibero is the source for water supply for the city of Harare. So when it is contaminated, and in that moment, the local authority does not have enough resources to procure material to treat water, it then becomes a higher cost. Henceforth, communities suffer from a lack of water. This is why we have water rationing and all those things. So next slide, please. Before this one, that one that shows wetlands in Harare. No. Yes. So those are wetlands in Harare. So that one in the map there, that area that is tainted as blue, that's Lake Manyame. Then the other one is it's Lake Chibero. So you will notice that Harare is situated on an upland plateau region where we have got this watershed, the Manyame and Mazoe rivers. These then that feed the city. So we also have got low-lying plains within the city that also provides for water. I'm not trying to be using too much of the technical language so that we are going together. Next slide, please. Next slide. So you will notice that that first slide was showing wetlands in Harare. So this one now is on that same plateau. This is a map that has been placed. You saw what you saw. That was a natural one. But this is a map that has been placed. This is now using the GIS that Tino was talking about, Geographic Information System. This is a map extract that shows that the red line is the boundary of Harare. You see? So the blue inside the boundary of Harare are the wetlands. So you will notice that these are the cities, some of the cities or localities in Harare that show the loss in hectares. It is the size in hectares. And the last one, the loss, it shows the amount of wetland that has been lost. So you will notice the trend has been increasing over the years because of housing, because of shop, and to meet the growing urban population needs. Next slide, please. So this one is just it now shows that kind of a development, the spatial distribution of these wetlands and how they have been reduced because of urbanization, settlement, development for buildings, and all these other purposes. Next slide, please. So moving to the communal areas or rural areas is also a challenge. I think this side, it becomes a huge challenge because most livelihoods and communities directly depend on provisions from wetlands. Remember, wetlands, they offer different services to communities. They can be regulating the climate, or directly, for example, we've got biodiversity that comes as a result of wetlands. And some communities in Southern Africa or even in Zimbabwe, we've got fishing communities. You go to on the Kariba Basin or the Zambezi, the Zambezi Valley, we've got communities there that directly depend on fishing. So when we threaten wetlands, it means those communities' livelihood and survival is threatened. So the main cause of wetland degradation, especially for the vales and tambours, these are types of wetlands, has been agricultural expansion. And remember, when agriculture expands, farmers start also using chemicals. So this expansion, it is be it for subsistence farming or for commercial large-scale farming, where there is heavy use of fertilizers and all these things that degrade the wetlands. So in the end, it leads to siltation, biodiversity loss, and drying of streams. And in some areas, you'll notice that communities, because climate has changed and maybe there's limited water, they move towards wetlands where they start cultivating, which then lead to a siltation of the wetland. Then the other issue is brick molding and sand abstraction. You know, we are still making the bricks and mortar houses. We have areas here in Zimbabwe, Koromozi, Domboshava, Mutoko, where, because in a wetland, this is also where you get that wet good soil that can be used to make some of these bricks. So if it's not sustainably done, it ends up degrading the wetland. Then overgrazing as well, because of pastoralism. Most of our communities, we've had issues because when the other areas are dry, but because of the biodiversity within a wetland, you'll find there's better grasses for the communities to graze. So they end up grazing in a wetland. Then it ends up compacting the soil. In the long run, it destroys the wetland. Last but not least, this has been a pressure across most countries, the extractive sector, especially mining. Here, mining, we look at mining, be it large-scale mining or small-scale mining. For example, small-scale mining or artisanal mining, we have had cases. I remember in 2020, the government of Zimbabwe ended up issuing or pronouncing a ban on mining in alluvial areas or in these wetland areas, because some small-scale miners, they were now doing that unsafe, unregulated mining inside water bodies, which contaminates the water body. Then you will notice that maybe there's a community that is dependent on that water. Water is now poisoned, and the fish inside the water is poisoned due to that presence of mercury. It affects livelihood. Sometimes children are playing in those water bodies. It now also causes some health effects. So we have had issues of mercury due to alluvial mining, and in Zimbabwe, it has been banned. Last, thank you. So what has been done and what lessons can we track? Obviously, I've already mentioned, as I'm about to finish, that we've had issues to a legal and advocacy role of Harare Wetlands Trust because in Harare, or because of the presence of this more of wetland areas, this is where we have seen most of court cases happening that size. And because of the presence of the Ramsar designated sites. So the court interventions, Monaleval and Borodale Vales, we have had successes where the court has stopped housing projects through court injunctions. So it's a community with the Harare Wetlands Trust. They do a court case, and the court has interjected. Sometimes the Environmental Management Agency and the city of Harare has been also held accountable, where it has been challenged for issuing illegal permits and lack of enforcement, where they've issued a permit for a developer to do some housing projects in an area that is a wetland, or where the city of Harare or the Environmental Management Agency is not monitoring or enforcing as it's required from the Environmental Management Act. So we have also had some policy engagements where there's been a successful lobbying for wetlands to be recognized in the Harare Master Plan, so that whatever future development is happening, it happens in recognition of the wetlands. Let's not impose other land uses over the wetlands, because wetlands are important for water, for survival, and for livelihood. Then we have also had some community empowerment activities where residents now become monitors for illegal developments. So you'll notice sometimes, because of the ever-growing urban area, some people circle themselves outside of the local authority or outside of the EMA. They just circle themselves, and sometimes they circle where there's a wetland because there's easy access to water for their consumption. So communities sometimes are monitoring those areas and they conduct citizens arrests. Public campaigns as well that are linking wetlands to the issue of Harare water crisis. So it becomes a very good case where you can link that the problem of water is because we are not properly taking care of our wetlands. Last slide, please. So you will notice why I picked Harare and some of these cases in Zimbabwe as case studies. You will notice when you move across in Southern Africa, or when you also go even to areas like Nigeria, these are the causes are similar in terms of what is threatening and degrading wetlands. When you look at agriculture, it's the same thing. So moving across the region and also what has been done, the extractives, as I've indicated, be it mining, sometimes it's mining for oil we require oil for our vehicles and other uses. So for example, the Okavango, where there was the Renko Africa was doing some exploration on the Okavango Delta. But after intense scrutiny and drilling, the drilling was paused in 2023 in Namibia. Meanwhile, but the challenge is that we have also noticing that it can happen, it's a transboundary issue, but another country, because of development needs, it can be stopped in another territory, but another country, they can continue to do, which then leads to threatening of that water body. So you'll notice the challenge that we have in Southern Africa is because we have development needs, yet we also require to sustain sustainable development. So this is the crux, that there's the problem of the wicked problem of development, and we also have the challenge of threatening these ecosystems that can play a role towards our development. So climate as well is another shock and extreme weather events that are compounding other pressures. So you notice I have already indicated that we've got other pressures of housing development, pressures of industrial development, and climate now comes as an exacerbating or a catalyst to these challenges. So for example, Maputo Bay in Mozambique, we are noticing a loss of mangroves that are dying because of hailstorms and change in weather extremes. which is also adding to local pressures, right? That this is happening, and also there's a need for housing, there's a need for salt, there's a need for other issues. I also picked the transboundary wetland issue on Chobe Zambezi as a request by Rutherford. So you'll notice that before 1999, there was a transboundary issue here on who does this border belong to. But it's a matter that was settled by the International Criminal Justice Court in 1999, and that area was given to Botswana. Yes, it has solved the transboundary challenge or the transboundary debate, but you will notice now another issue is mushrooming, issues of fishing conflicts and policing tensions. So you'll notice that there are communities that live or depend on this wetland, that Chobe Valley. So we are noticing heavy fishing that also now will disrupt the biodiversity. And we are noticing that lack of regulation and monitoring of fishing activities and fishing groups is something that we attempted here in Zimbabwe to try and reduce and monitor. We created some community groups or community fishing groups, but it was difficult to regulate and enforce whatever rules and regulations that over a water body that knows no boundary. So on this other side of the wetland, we can develop establish community groups, put policies and monitoring procedures. But on that other land, or maybe another country, or if proper monitoring and enforcement is not done, it becomes a challenge. So it then heavily reducing the fishing stocks. That then results in conflict. You'll notice that some communities in that same wetland, they can be harvesting fish for subsistence consumption, yet other communities are harvesting for commercial consumption. So it becomes that battle now for need for livelihood, need for consumption, and also commercialization. So these are the issues that have been happening across Southern Africa, in Zimbabwe, and also these are issues that are similar to in all these areas. So and this is what has been attempts that civil society, different groups are doing. So I end with our wetlands, our future. It reminds me of the statement, our common future, that leads to the establishment of the sustainable development goals. So we have got a common future, and we need to manage and protect our wetlands. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope somebody picked something and it can instigate some agency in us to actively participate. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I'll hand it over back to Agatha. Agatha, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. And many thanks to our presenters of today. We actually had a nice time listening to what you were saying, and that was so insightful. There is a saying which goes that when one teaches, two learns. So I'm sure we have other people who got the chance to learn of things that we didn't know about. And for now, we just need a small energizer before we proceed, because this was quite insightful and we need some time to refresh and unwind. So can we kindly stand up? Oh, and we switch on to our cameras to all those who feel comfortable that they'll, because this session is being recorded. So all those who are feeling free, can we kindly switch on our cameras, and then we do just one short exercise. Thank you. Can we all stand up? I can see most of the cameras, they are switched off. Hello, guys. Let's make this a bit interesting. Can we switch on our cameras? Can we kindly switch on our cameras so that we make this interesting? We just want to get a picture for this short exercise. Okay, thank you for those who have their cameras switched on. What I want us to do is to give a short pam-pam as we are giving a vote of, not really a vote of thanks, but as we are appreciating the presenters who gave us the wetlands presentation. So I want us to do what we call a gorilla or a chimpanzee kind of appreciation. Is you are standing up and then you have to beat on your chest. So we can all start. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Thank you to all those who managed to get their time to do this so that we make it more interesting. And now, before we move on, I think, Nicholas, you can give the floor to the people that we proceed to questions and answer session. And just afterwards, I'll do another energizer because on this one, people really didn't come through.
Perfect, perfect. I think that's a wake-up call for everyone who is not in a quite comfortable place or position to get ready and really wake up. But I will hand it over to Marcy. I want to believe she was to lead this session, where now I think we can welcome everyone and if they have questions or if they have inputs to what have been presented. Marcy, are you there? Or Joshua, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, I'm here.
Super, please do take the floor.
Okay, so thank you, Zimbabwe, for the interactive session. I'll first open the floor. You can write in the comments or you can raise your hand if you have any questions from the presentations.
Okay.
I can hear somebody speaking, but I can't see who it is.
In order for people to see, I think you need to also leave your videos open and then I can spotlight you for everyone.
There's a hand from Sipiwe.
There's a hand up, Kalua.
Okay, my name is Pio and I have a question. And before my question, I'd like to thank you for wonderful presentations. My question here goes, during the first presentation, it showed there's a connection between wetlands and empowering our community. So I would like an elaboration on how wetlands can empower our communities.
Mr. Rutherford, do you want to answer that?
Let me hand over this one to Tino. I think Tino can do justice to that one. Tino Tender.
Yeah, sure. So I think can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll refer back to slide, that was slide 7, right? Where we talked about the issues of youths, when we talked about youth women. So in wetlands, generally, when we are talking about what can you say about wetlands, we are meaning we can have more biodiversity in there, but during wetlands, there's an issue of sustainable use of wetlands. So in these wetlands, there is a wetland, I would just first give an example of a wetland in Zimbabwe in the Hwange area called Kasibo wetland. On this wetland, communities are practicing agriculture. That's sustainable use of wetlands. So when you are doing sustainable use of wetlands, that means the communities are going to gain through agriculture in the form of agroecology and other aspects. Then there is the issues of tourism, what we call ecotourism. If in Zimbabwe we have Victoria Falls, Victoria Falls was designated as a wetland. The communities are gaining through various means that tourism brings into the area. We have water, clean water that comes to the communities. So wetlands are quite big in terms of what they provide to the communities. Despite agriculture, tourism, and so forth, it's quite a lot. But now is the issue, how are we using the wetlands? Is it a sustainable way for future generations? If it's not sustainable, that means we are going to depreciate what we have. When we depreciate what we have, the future generations are not going to benefit. So how we use is going to make us benefit. While we benefit, let's make it as sustainable as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I can also add a quick comment on also wetlands are breeding ground for fish. You know, fish provide for income and proteins. I remember I was in Kasanka National Park in Zambia, Serenge, Southern District. Communities in that area were fishing communities. So they are thriving on the availability of that wetland. And I know in Kanyemba, Zimbabwe as well, where we were attempting to establish some fishing groups where, because these communities are already thriving from the availability of that wetland, which is a breeding ground for fish. But what we need now is to do sustainable fishing and sustainable harvesting so that communities continue getting that income and also the proteins that they need from the presence of that wetland. Thank you.
I'd seen Madam Kerubo and Akorede had raised their hands. So we can hear from Akorede and then Madam Kerubo can ask their question. Akorede, please go ahead. I'm unable to pronounce the second name, so I hope you're the only Akorede in the group. If not, we can hear from Madam Kerubo and then Akorede can speak later.
Thank you for the presentation. It was quite heavy. There's brick making, at least I know in some parts of my village, we have people who do bricks. Is that a sustainable way of using the wetlands? Yeah, I was just wondering, I was thinking, yes, it's one way they're using the wetlands and they're able to actually, it's an income generating activity which sustains the communities, but is it sustainable?
Anyone who is able to answer, Rodrigo Tino?
I think the issue is on use, sustainable use has been the term that we've been talking about, sustainable use. I remember a similar case that was happening in Matopo. Matopo is in southern part of Zimbabwe, Matebeleland north, that's south. So the way that they were doing the activity initially, it would lead to the degradation of that wetland. Because so it's the way. So what happened is with that community, we worked on a local environmental action plan, number one. And we also had some bylaws. So bylaws is mainly a law that will be applicable within that jurisdiction in that local community. For example, in Zimbabwe, we've got our Environmental Management Act, which governs environment throughout the country. But a local authority or a local community can have its community bylaw. So in that community bylaw, they identified, for example, that brick making is a source of livelihood for youth and other people in this area. So how do we sustainably use the wetland, the resource that is there in our area that provides for soil, for molting, water, and all those issues? So yes, it can be sustainable when it is effectively used, and there are ways of monitoring and controlling use.
Thank you. I can see Alid has a question in the chat. Today, some multinational corporations, particularly Chinese ones, are acquiring land in Africa, including in wetlands. Are there sufficiently robust laws in place to enable NGOs and associations to combat this phenomenon? Sophia, do you want to answer, or do you have a question? Maybe it's a question. So Zimbabwe, Agatha, Roderick, you could answer the question from Alid, whether you're aware of any laws that are helping enables and associations combat the acquisition of land in Africa.
So Tino will maybe add on. I indicated that Tino indicated on the multilateral legal frameworks. Those are frameworks, although they are considered as a soft law, it's not hard law, because, for example, we do not have penalties and implications for non-compliance. But what happens is when we have the Ramsar Convention, what Zimbabwe has done, it has nationalized legislation. Nationalization of an international framework is whereby, as a country, you then come up with your laws, you come up with your procedures and policies that will then govern the use in your local area. So I mentioned this one, for example, that in Zimbabwe, for a developer, this developer can be either from whichever part of the world, from China, from whichever part of the world. A developer, there are projects that should undergo environmental impact assessment. And this is a call for young people. This is a call also for civil society and organizations that can be participating in this meeting. That makes sure that you are participating, because the EIA, for example, it also happens in Namibia, in Zambia. There's in the EIA, there's what we call community participation or public participation. So let's make sure that we participate in that process, because it gives communities a voice to either allow a project to happen or not allow a project to happen. So that's a legal provision that we have here in Zimbabwe that allows and ensures that local community participate in when land is being given or is being issued. But the challenge that we have noticed over the years across Southern Africa is that sometimes these companies operate without doing the environmental impact assessment, especially when they are given what we call special grants. A special grant it can only be issued by the president here in Zimbabwe. So a special grant will then make sure that some procedures, some things are not followed. But if the due procedure is followed, the Environmental Management Act, we are having a framework in Zimbabwe, a wetlands policy. I'm sure these are also legal frameworks that communities can use to maybe do activism or advocacy against operating or property development in wetlands. I shared examples of Harare Wetland Trust, where it has taken the Harare City Council to court and the Environmental Management Agency to court, and successfully they have won in terms of stopping development in some wetlands. But there's still more work to be done, because most of our countries, we currently do not have environmental tribunals or environmental courts that can adjudicate on these issues successfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the next person, Nicholas, could you please help me translate what is in the chat to French for our French-speaking participants? Safia, you've had your hand up for a while. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Messi.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, we also have other questions in the chat.
Yes, but Safia had their hand up first.
It's okay, I was
Let's
just noticing you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the nice presentation. And I'm having a question about the ecosystem evaluation. As one of the major importance of the wetlands is a provision of the different ecosystems, so ecosystem services. So I really want to know if there is any initiative which deals with the evaluation of those ecosystems as one of the way to ensure it is conservation. So I would like to know maybe if there is any economic tools that have been used in your country as a way to quantify or to evaluate the economic value of those ecosystem services. Well, thank you so much.
Should we, rather than take all the questions, Marcy, what do you think? And then maybe people can respond, only if they have written them down.
Well, Nicholas, should I repeat or I didn't get it?
I don't know if Tino can.
Yeah.
We had the question. I don't know if Tino wants to take this one.
Okay, so let's do this. Maybe we take a few more other questions, and then
Yes.
you can respond to them at once. I see Kerubo's hand is up, so I'll welcome you, but I'll also read some on the chat. But before I do that, Kerubo, please do unmute your microphone and go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I know there was a question before about how to stop Chinese on coming to acquire land in our continent. However, our experience in Kenya has been that a lot of the people in the leadership are the ones actually who are out there ready to sell off our land. And even in like when we are talking about deforestation, we have them starting to build hotels in our forests, where we are saying we need to plant more trees, and they are cutting trees. Like now we have Karura Forest, which has been there and people have been fighting for it to remain. Yet now, suddenly, in the past year, they have cut chunks of that forest. Is there an international body that can come in and, because within the country, we may not be able to fight enough. Sometimes you find the people are intimidated, they're not able to fight against the ruling lot. Is there an organization, like an international organization, that can step in and fight for our forests in different countries? For example, if it's we have this international organization and it takes it, we go to court and see if we can fight for those smaller organizations which can't fight.
Hello. I just wanted to give a feedback on this. One of the issues that is happening in Africa is the lack of political will.
Yeah.
So whenever there is lack of political will, if the ruling party is giving the Chinese the power to come and do whatever they do, they destroy the land and the leave. Usually the burden is on us. UN has some bodies where these reports have been done, and each country has been submitting their NDCs. Well, where have you improved? Where are you going through for next year? But there is nothing that has been done in terms of these issues. So these issues are more on our countries, basically on us, the communities who are suffering. So the issue is, how are we acting on it? In Zimbabwe, now there is a revision from environmental impact assessment to what they call Asia, which includes the issues of corporate responsibility and also the issue of reclamation of land in that document. So with this now, they were seeing that the rural district councils did see that no, at the top there is a gap. These guys are being allowed to do whatever they want. So what can we do while we're at the lowest of it and we are the ones who are suffering? They had to shift through the environmental management agents, which is under the Ministry of Environment in Zimbabwe, to shift now from EIA to now the new document, which is Asia. So yeah, it's all about the will, political will. If there is no political will, these issues of wetlands, environmental issues, we are going to suffer. But luckily with the Zimbabwe, there is a portfolio from the parliament on environment. They have been working quite tirelessly on these issues. Now there is no Chinese person who can come and claim or have land, but they are coming as investors. Well, they are coming as investors. There's still an issue of they are still investing more, that the local communities can't even have anything. At the end of the day, they are suffering, the communities. So yeah, it's all about political willingness of our governments, of our politicians. If there is nothing like that, we are still going to suffer. There is no way we can really report them and have something which is solid. So as communities, yeah, we have quite a lot to do and have that, yeah. So I think I can
Thank
hand
you.
over.
Yeah, thank you very much. We had Marcy dropping off, so I picked up on where she has left. But on top of Safia's question, as much as what Kerubo had asked, I wanted to also read a few things on the chat, and maybe some of our presenters or people in this call with knowledge can raise their hand to respond. So there is an input from Fabumi that wetlands regulate other greenhouse gases like methane. So that's something. But then Ian, I guess this was a question, if I'm not mistaken, what strategies can be used to meaningfully involve youth and community members, especially those who are not professional scientists or environmentalists, in decision-making about local wetlands and management? While many international events like COPs, which is I think COP21, COP22 and the likes, tend to be dominated by the experts, how can passionate individuals from grassroots and marginalized backgrounds also have a voice and sit at the table? Yeah. And then I think there was also another question from Mohammed. How do wetlands contribute to climate change mitigation? And are there current efforts to restore degraded wetlands for this purpose? I'm just scanning for more questions, but there is also equally an answer on the chat, which we will read. But in the meantime, let's allow anyone with answers or responses or a reaction towards what has been asked or brought forward to come through. Thank you.
Yeah, can I respond before I drop off? My starting point also, okay, I want to add on what can communities and people do in the event that they notice a gap, be it a legislative gap or development is happening irregardless of the nature of that development. As I indicated in my presentation, that the crux of the matter is that as Africa or most of our communities, there is a need of development. There's a need of development in terms of housing, in terms of improving power and all these things. So this is why maybe our government sometimes end up pursuing issues of business and foreign FDIs, foreign direct investment. So maybe the challenge now is when you look at market-based instruments favor deregularized countries. The more strict a country becomes, the lesser investors come. So markets prefer to happen on a free environment. So this is why you notice that where there is less regulation, more investors end up coming, especially on this extractive sector. Because as an investor, when there is so strict in terms of environmental regulation and so forth, so what sometimes governments do in Africa, they consider a risk analysis, a SWOT analysis, which is beneficiary in the short term, because there are short-term needs and there are long-term needs. Yet, in the end, we end up bringing these wicked problems that affect our communities and our countries. So for me, the case is rather not in terms of not having the legal frameworks and because, for example, I strongly believe on the environmental impact assessment, on its adequacy if it is properly done, because it provides for all evaluations in terms of environmental, social, and economic on the biosphere, and also what the agency wants in terms of the team that comprises the consultant team to do the AIA. There has to be a geologist, there has to be a biologist, all these individuals that can, if it is fully done and comprehensively, communities are allowed to participate, I'm sure it can be a very powerful and effective instrument that communities can use. The challenge is that over the years, it has not been done adequately, or it is just picked up. Few people quickly is done, and this is why we are having some of the issues that are happening. On an international level, we also have United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights. I'm sure these are other principles that also require responsible investments by developers. That maybe communities we can get to learn on those and see how we can force our governments to maybe adopt, or making sure that our national legislation is at par, or adopts international frameworks, and also our national legislation adopts these international standards. For example, United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights. And also, I would like to also say that, remember, sovereignty. Each country has sovereignty. As I indicated, that some of these frameworks, this is what we call soft international law. It's not hard law in terms of now putting penalties and maybe removing a country when there is non-compliance. There are no issues like that. But we more of, or even you when you are reading some of the language that is used in that framework, you will see sometimes it's more of encouraging or best practices and all those things. Then it's upon a country or upon a sovereign country to then nationalize those provisions and those standards, and maybe they can get better evaluations at international level, right? This is why you have got some countries end up saying that no, when you're good, whatever you are producing, we want to see supply chains. We want to support supply chains, responsible supply chains, right? In your country, if you are seeing that this one the sourcing is not from responsible sourcing, let's not buy those products or those goods.
Thank you very much, Tino. We were really happy to have you, and you've really shared so much for everyone to learn, really. So very much appreciated. We wish you could have stayed a little bit longer. Right.
Sorry, Nicholas. Tino, I think Tino is, sorry, Nicholas, I think Tino is still with us. The one who is leaving now is Roderick.
Oh, yeah. Roderick, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry, Tino. But I also wanted to mention, did Tino want to respond to some of these questions? Also, there is more to the chat. We can all equally respond to that, maybe as chats. And then if we have an opportunity, we can always read them out. But there are more questions in the chat and are not forgotten. We see them. So anyone, please raise your hand, or if you want to respond or react to any of that, welcome. The floor is yours. Anyone else? I'm not seeing any other hand.
No, so I will respond to the one that was saying, can you explain how wetlands biodiversity supports ecosystem resilience? Which was talking about ecosystem resilience, especially in the face of climate change, right? So I'll just go through how wetlands biodiversity supports resilience. Number one, it's through species diversity, buffers shocks. So as wetlands host a wide range of plants, fish, amphibians, birds and microbes, so high species of diversity ensures that if some species are lost due to floods, droughts or temperature changes, other Others can maintain ecological function, such as nutrient cycling, water filtration, and soil stabilization. So, or just to run through some of the stuff. There is a functional redundancy, which includes multiple species often perform similar ecological roles. For example, different plants species can absorb nutrients and filter water. If one species declines, others can take over, maintaining ecosystem services. We have habitat complexity, we have pollination and seed dispersal, we have carbon storage and nutrient cycling, we have disease regulation. So biodiversity is nature's insurance policy. I think if we hold on to this, it will really make sense. The richer, the more complexity, the wetland ecosystem, the better it can withstand climate shocks and maintain essentially service like clean water, food supply, and flood protection. So that's how mainly wetlands can support us in terms of resilience to climate change. Thank you. I think we can continue.
Thank you very much for your responses and reaction. Anyone with a question? But I think there was an answer there written. I'll just try to find it and read it out for you guys. Yeah, so Ademola was responding with regards to Wetlands being powerful and nature-based climate solution because they store large amounts of carbon, especially wetlands, especially in peatlands and coastal areas. And then in quote, blue carbon. So these are systems like mangroves, salt marshes, and seagrasses. And restoring regarded wetlands is an active global policy and project area right now. From peatlands rewetting campaigns to blue carbon restoration projects and voluntary carbon market finance. And in terms of like how wetlands help mitigate climate change, he said long-term carbon storage. So that would be a solution. Coastal wetlands and peatlands bury carbon in soil and sediments for centuries to millennia. They store much more carbon per area than most terrestrial forests. And then another thing would be prevent emissions when rewetting peats, where he says drained or burned peatlands release large amounts of carbon dioxide. So rewetting stops those emissions, immediate climate benefits that is. But then in terms of blue carbon or coastal sequestration as another solution, mangroves, salt marshes, and seagrasses trap carbon in biomass and sediments. Protecting and restoring them increases long-term carbon uptake. So it's more of like a core benefits, I think. I think he wanted to say more, but yeah, that's it for now. So those are some answers from the chat. Trying to see if there is more. Yeah, there is more in terms of what we can do in terms of what we can do as youth. So African youth can play a crucial role in protecting wetlands through one, awareness raising, where they're informing communities about importance of wetlands and biodiversity, water and climate, but also environmental education, where they're integrating wetland protection into schools, clubs, or associations. Then local actions through participating in reforestations and clean up or wetland monitoring campaigns. And then leveraging on innovation, developing technological solutions or community projects for sustainable management. And then there is another solution around advocacy. So youth can take part by making the voice of young people heard by decision makers to influence protection policies. But also research and documentation, where there is collecting local data on the state of wetlands to support conservation actions. In summary, young people must be active participants, providers of solutions, and mobilized at all levels. So yeah, those were a few remarks from the chat box. Is there anything else? We still have got a little bit time. So before we close up, maybe if there is any input from some of you, feel free to raise your hand and then we'll allow you. Or unmute your microphone to speak. I'm checking for hands. So far I'm not seeing any. Rutherford, did you have anything to share? I see you've unmuted your microphone.
No, I don't have anything to share.
Are you the one to do the key points or takeaways? Also, I see it in the agenda.
The one who was supposed to do the keep was Joshua.
I'm not sure if we are ready for that yet, but if so, Joshua, the floor is yours.
Joshua from Comfort, Malawi.
I'm not sure if Joshua is with us now. Oh, yeah, I can see him. I guess if not, I think we had a fair share of key points and takeaways from our presenters and a few other contributors, both on the chat and those who were able to speak. So maybe we can say a few things and then yeah, leave rooms for questions related to maybe people here on this call who are interested to participate and yeah, further engage
Nicholas,
with the project.
Nicholas,
Yeah.
Nicholas, sorry, there is a hand from Tino. I think he was raising his hand.
Tino, the floor is yours.
Okay, I wanted to say, for those who are in Zimbabwe and who might want to have a showcase in terms of the wetlands that are in Zimbabwe, they are started. So we are starting a wetlands mapping project, a Zimbabwe Men and Biosphere Youth Network in the whole of Zimbabwe. Starting the next month, we are going to be visiting with schools, with universities, with local communities, seeing the works they are doing in wetlands, how the wetlands are being preserved, and how we can preserve degraded wetlands. So, yeah, we are going to have quite a number of field trips. That's around 3 field trips to different wetlands every month, and I will be happy to be joined. I'm going to drop my email in my WhatsApp contact in the chat. So anyone who might be interested in, you might be outside Zimbabwe, might be inside Zimbabwe, yeah, we can definitely try to connect and work along those ways together.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Tino. Thank you very much. So I hope that is going to happen in a short. He's going to leave his contacts there. But yeah, I wanted to say also thank you all for your many contributions.
Before you go, Nicholas, I'm
yeah.
also seeing that Joshua is having some challenge with network, so I think you won't be able to join us.
Who?
Joshua. He is having challenges with his network, yeah.
That's fine, yeah. So yeah, I wanted to say thank you all actually for your many contributions and participation in today's dialogue on wetlands. For those who are just joining or who joined late, this conversation is actually, or dialogue, you can call it, is part of our online advocacy actions that complement and are complementing the important work that is already happening on the ground in communities across Africa and in our networks, both CCIVS and ICYE networks. So, and just to say a few things, our next online dialogue, so something like this, will take place on the 16th of September. And the topics for that one will be on nutrition and climate change. So we look at food systems, smart agriculture, sustainable production, soil management, and most of the presentations are going to be around these areas. So it will again be a very good opportunity for you to come and learn. And I warmly invite you to join again and continue building this collective momentum that we have shown today. And for more details in terms of recordings and some more resources that we have in this project, you can visit our LiveX Resource Hub, and I hope some of my colleagues are going to share the links to our Resource Hub, and you should be able to come across some more videos in terms of dialogues that we have done, but also other actions that we're doing on the ground across partner countries, where now everything is shared and uploaded there. Again, thanks a lot. And my call to action, I guess, will be for us to stick together and continue doing what we're doing in this Earth advocacy journey that we're taking, strengthening our voices and our actions, not for ourselves, but also for the planet. But yeah, thank you, and maybe see you at the next session. We'll end it over to Agatha and Rutherford for a close, for a strong end, I think, to this. But also I would like to request a photo maybe at one point, and either me or my colleagues will do it. But before we go there, there might be questions, and this is why I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues, Rutherford and Agatha, if there is anything at all, and then they can take it on.
Well, Agatha.
Okay.
Agatha, do you have something to say?
Okay, I just want to say thank you all to those who managed to join, and there are others who couldn't really join because of network, but they were in and out of the session, and we are so grateful. Also to Nicholas and Messi for assisting us, and to Mr. Maruta as well. You were there throughout the call. And we hope next time when we have the next session, we'll be having stable network and everyone will be able to join. Have a blessed day. And I'm sure we have managed to take one or two from the session that we are coming from having here. And our last energizer, I would like us to think of ourselves as individuals, as wetlands. So I want you to put a pretty face on how likely you'll be loving yourself and how you would also preserve yourself. So just make something like a gesture or something that you think like, this is my kind of self-love. So Nicholas, before we have the last picture of the day, any gesture that you think, I am the wetland and I am preserving myself. This is what we are doing now as our last energizer. Thank you.
I guess that calls for us all who have cameras on their phones and laptops to turn them on. But yeah, so are we doing it on a count of 3, Agatha?
Yes.
Okay, so on the count of 1, 2, 3, I guess we. For how long are we supposed to do it?
You can take 3 or 4 pictures. It's okay. You can just change the gestures of the phone. With me here, I'm hugging myself because I know I'm precious.
Great, just like the wetlands.
And this is the sign of saying, I love myself because I know preservation of myself means a lot more people are benefiting. So thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure the person who was taking pictures managed to get 2 or 3, and we'll put our hashtags on different platforms as and why we're doing those gestures and what do they mean. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for those who have been here since the beginning, yeah, if you captured 1 or 2 things, please do share them in social medias and tag us all. Would enjoy it very much to take this conversation on social medias, but also, you know, offline, and replicate what we've done today in your own countries, yeah, in groups of small. In small groups with other youth, whether at school or at work. That would be wonderful to see. And do tell us about it. I guess that marks an end of our today's session, right? Yes,
yeah,
yes, Rutherford.
I think this marks the end of this dialogue, and let me also take the opportunity to thank everyone for tremendous efforts as well as actively in participating in this online dialogue. I think I do appreciate as a part and parcel of the LifeX team. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you very soon in the next dialogue in September. We need to join in numbers. I think we still have to, Nicholas, we still have to meet the magic number of 100 participants online. We still need to meet that magic number. So I would like to invite each and everyone to join again and have more people in the next dialogue. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you a lot. And we will be leaving some more details in terms of like how you can participate in the chat and who you can contact in your countries. So my colleagues are going to post something there. In case you're not enrolled in this cohort of LiveX of Living Earth exchanges, so there'll be more information there and more information for where you can find resources like today's. But then this video, this recording today is going to be put on our resource hub. So in case you missed something or you want to revisit it, please do go there and find more details. Otherwise, let's all say goodbye in our own languages in the spirit of Ubuntu and also diversity.
Asante na kwaheri.
Kwaheri.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Genda via.